Now, how do you know if somebody has knowledge? Well, they make predictions, and then these predictions come true. Now, I'm going to ask you right now to do something, and I'm going to make two predictions about what you're doing, and you tell me if they're true or not. Okay, I want you now take a second here and think about the five most important things that have happened in your life so far. So just take a second here. Think about the five most important things that have happened in your life so far. Okay, now look, I don't expect you to get to five, but I'm willing to bet you got at least one or two. If you got one or two, that's all I want to do. And so now I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to make a prediction about those things that you just came up with, your significant points in your life so far, the most important things in your life so far. I'm willing to bet, number one, that it's going to have high emotional content to who? To you. Birth of your child, whatever it is, your marriage, whatever it is, it's going to have high emotional content, okay? And so if I were to ask you, which I'm not going to, but if I were to ask you basically to tell me about this significant event, you're going to tell it to me in the form of a story. You will. This is the only way you're going to be able to do this is to tell it to me in the form of a story, whatever it is, whether it's, your marriage or your kids or graduating from college or whatever it is. These five most important points are going to have high emotional content to you, and they're going to be told in a story. Well, listen, if you do this and you start to think this way, I'd like you to think about the concept of what is a metaphor? Well, a metaphor is a story on steroids. It's real quick. The duck walk, when I say the guy walked, did the duck walk, what are you going to say? Right away, you know what? You know what a duck walks. You know what they look like. So what is it? It's a metaphor. They're not walking like a duck. They're just sort of waddling, and they could look like they're waddling. But the point is, the metaphor is really something that you have some stable data about, but a duck walk, okay? So when you start to look at metaphors, they're very, very important. I had one of my clients who was in the software development business, and we had some people coming over from Germany, and I said, well, now that we've got this all figured out, we've got to come up with a metaphor. And he said, what do you mean a metaphor? I just want to show my software. I said, no. You've got to have a metaphor. So when we brought it into the Germans, okay, and what we showed them was the very first slide that we had was basically a picture, and it was a picture of a license plate. And I said, look, what we're going to do here now is we're going to show you the license plate. And then I said, then we're going to show you, and then I flashed a picture of that same license plate, only it was on a Ferrari. So I said, you're going to see the little picture, and then you're going to see the Ferrari, the bigger picture. So we went through, and everything was framed by the metaphor of license plate and Ferrari. At the end, the first question that they asked me was, what about the dealership? Now, there's no dealership in a software package, but what they had done is the metaphor they bought was license plate Ferrari, and they took it to the next level, which was dealership. So it's kind of important. In fact, it's very important to understand that most men, and these were all men in the room, have a lot of stable data, a lot of emotional content around a Ferrari. Okay, fast, sleek. I don't have to say anything. They just look at it. Fast, sleek, elegant, expensive. Okay, and so when they see that, okay, and we talk about the story, which is basically the software we're offering, and they buy the metaphor. So it's important when you're starting to look at who you're presenting to create basically something they'll have some emotional content around, and something that they will have some sort of story or made up story about it, so that they'll know the story that, and if you can get that into a metaphor right up front, in the very beginning, you're framing it with a metaphor, you have a huge advantage over anyone who's just trying to tell you about a piece of software and how it works. That's boring, but not a Ferrari, not at all. And so people have to think in terms of, how do I get them emotionally charged? How can I get them to have some sort of story around it? in a frame of basically a metaphor. So a metaphor is a story on steroids, and quite often that's all you have is time is for a metaphor, not time for the story. People know stories stick. When people talk, they tell stories. People don't remember facts, they remember stories. When I have my courses, I have all these games and simulations. They're not stories, but they are common experiences that people have. Then they'll have a story around it. And then they'll understand the emotional contact they had with this story. And so I'm able to teach in a way of experiential learning, which is basically getting people to have their own experiential story around the situation. By the way, that everybody in the room has a story related to the game or the simulation I've created. So stories stick. Metaphors are much stronger because they're quicker and easier. And if you can put this together, you're going to be far more effective. I learned from Bucky a long time ago that the bigger the picture, the more accurate your prediction. There's nothing in a caterpillar, if you just study a caterpillar, will ever tell you about scenario butterfly. So my entire life, I am working as much as I can to be a comprehensivist. That's interested in everything, so I can make better choices, better decisions, and have a better perspective. What can I do for you?